Hey everyone, in this video we're gonna check out some of the new changes and improvements coming to patch 9.1.5. Will these changes quote-unquote save the game for the people who currently dislike it? Well, no. Should these changes have made it to the game in patch 9.0 or 9.1? Of course, but we still have a bunch of pretty solid changes. Obviously, I can't fit everything in this video because it would be way too long, and let's be honest, most of you wouldn't even watch it if it was 30 or 40 minutes long. So I'm gonna try to keep it short and simple and highlight what I think are some of the more important changes. But anyways, let's start off with the allied races. Some of you might remember they initially said we wouldn't get more customization options in Shadowlands, but a lot of stuff happened between now and then, so we're getting new options for the Nightborn, Lightforged Draenei, High Mountain Tauren, and the Void Elves. I have separate videos showing you all of the new options, so if you wanna check that out, you can find the links below. They also removed the dungeon requirements to unlock Ulterian humans, mechagnomes, and dark-eyed dwarves, which is pretty good in my opinion. We have a few class changes that are worth mentioning. I'm not really gonna talk about the individual class changes because honestly, they didn't change that much. They did however decide to finally kinda remove the AoE cap. They're not completely removing it because you won't be able to do full damage above the target cap, which is 5 or 8. But previously, you wouldn't be able to do any damage above the cap, so it's definitely a step in the right direction. One of the other changes that I think is worth mentioning is that all of your 2-minute cooldowns will reset at the end of a raid encounter or when you start a Mythic Plus dungeon. Covenants are getting some improvements that players basically have been asking for since the beta. Yep, you will finally be able to switch between the Covenants without any cooldowns or restrictions as long as you reach the Renown threshold, which is 80. Once you reach 80, you'll also be able to use the Covenant cosmetics on your alts even if they are not with that Covenant. So basically switching Covenants or using their cosmetics will apply to your alts as well once you have reached the Renown threshold. You can also skip the campaign if you join the same Covenant and get those Renown levels associated with it from dungeons or whatever you prefer. They also decided to remove the Conduit energy that everyone basically hated and added 2 new Covenant specific items. One of the items will make it possible for you to transfer anima to another Covenant or send it to one of your alts. The second item is called Mark of Distinction, which basically gives you Renown level 40 on any of your characters. So if you want to get all of the Covenant cosmetics, it will be a lot easier, because you will instantly be able to get Renown level 40 and then work your way up to 80. Besides that, they've added new soul shapes, made it so your anima conductor channels to all locations instead of just one, and you will also be able to repeat the Redeem Soul quest, so if you want to progress your Covenant a bit faster, you'll be able to do so. They've also added more frequent Maw missions for your adventure table and improved a bunch of stuff to the Covenant minigames as well. So overall, some pretty solid improvements. But anyways, let's move on and take a look at the Legion Timewalking. One of the highlights of this patch gotta be the Legion Timewalking. You'll be able to experience 6 of the old Mythic Plus dungeons by getting a Time-Worn Keystone in Oribos. These new Keystones will have their own set of affixes, including a new one called Infernal. The cool thing is, if you complete a Legion Mythic Plus dungeon during the Timewalking, you'll be able to get the same eye level loot as you would in Shadowlands, and they will even contribute to a weekly vault, which is pretty awesome. Besides that, they've also added a bunch of new cosmetics, so if you want to see all of them, make sure to check out my other video. Lastly, we have the Mage Tower, which I'm personally pretty excited about. If you complete one Mage Tower, you will get one of the quote-unquote new Transmog sets. If you complete all 7, you'll be able to get a new awesome looking mount. Once again, if you want to see all of this, make sure to check out my other video. You know how annoying it was to run through half of the Maw just to reach the Sanctum of Domination? Well, they finally decided to add 2 additional fast travel options, one at the raid entrance and the second one at Perdition Hold. You'll also be able to turn in your anima by talking to Archivist Resur and Korthia after completing a short questline, of course. And let's not forget, Duchess Minx will finally be able to sell you specific gear tokens instead of the random one she sold in patch 9.1. They've also made it a bit easier to catch up with reputation. One of the things they've added to make it a bit easier is an account-wide item that will increase the reputation you get from turning in relics by 50%. They've also made it so that rare mobs will drop relics multiple times and more enemies will carry them as well. However, there is a catch. You need to reach tier 6 on one of your other characters, which is pretty much the same as being exalted, which kinda sucks. You will also be able to complete a new weekly called Lost Research. This quest unlocks at tier 4 and gives you a ton of reputation. They've added some more stuff, but I'm not gonna talk about it in this video. But if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link to the blue post below. But anyways, let's move on and take a look at the changes to the item levels and rewards. Some of you might remember that you can obtain some awesome looking class mounts in Legion, and some of you might even know how annoying they are to get because of an achievement called Breaching the Tomb. Luckily they're making the achievement account wide, so you only have to do it once, which means it's gonna be a lot easier to get those awesome looking mounts. You'll also be able to show off your complete transmog outfit in chat or online directly from the dressing room. Players will then be able to see if they have collected the items you have, and if they haven't, they will be able to see how to get them, which is actually pretty awesome. On top of that, they've also added a brand new NPC in Oribos called Audara. This NPC will sell you a bunch of new stuff, including a new heirloom rank, which means that you will finally be able to use it in Shadowlands. You can also buy a new scouting map that basically just gives you the all available flight paths for every single expansion. This merchant will also sell you a PvP and Mythic Plus chest that contains an eye level 220 piece of loot. If you want to buy the Mythic Plus chest, you need to have a rating of 1500, and if you want to buy the PvP chest, you need a rating of 1600. Now the last item that you'll be able to get from this NPC is the time-bound Rumination, I believe it's called, and this item will basically raise one of your champions' levels to 30. We already talked about the Anima Cache and the Mark of Distinction, so yeah, overall, some pretty awesome items. Now the last thing I want to mention is that they also added 6 new boot cosmetics that you'll be able to get from the Trials of Stahl. And that's pretty much it, so let's move on. If you still need some of the Runecarving recipes, you'll be happy to know that they increased the drop rate on all difficulties to 100%. They also finally made it possible to scrap your legendaries and get back the materials you used. Threads of Fate is getting some pretty good improvements as well. You'll now be able to speak to an NPC in Torghast and get a daily quest for experience in Soul Ash. You also have the option to level from 50 to 60 through Torghast if you want to, but the EXP is kinda bad, so it's probably gonna take you some time. Now if you enjoy PvP, you will also be able to pick up a daily quest for some experience and gear in Oribos. They've also made the Threads of Fate objectives way shorter, and they will give you renown, high eye level gear and anima, so like I said, some pretty solid improvements. You will finally be able to skip the Shadowlands intro. I mean, the intro is pretty good the first time you do it, but eventually it just becomes tedious, so being able to skip it is awesome. If you want to skip the intro, you just have to speak with High Inquisitor Whitemane or Nazgrim after accepting the questline. Now if you're already in the Maw with one of your characters, you just have to speak to Jaina to skip it, which is pretty simple. You'll be able to get 8 new Druid travel forms. Some of them are pretty awesome, such as the Rune Stag or the Shimmering Arden Mood. If you want to know how you can obtain them, feel free to check out my guide, and I will leave a link to that video in the description below. Another great change is something that I've wanted to see in the game for some time: weather effects in Stormwind and Orgrimmar. Well, I kinda wanted it in the entire game, but at this point I will take what I can get. I mean, just imagine having a winter scene in Elven Forest. It would just make the world feel a lot more alive. They're adding legacy loot rules for the raids and dungeons in Battle for Azeroth. This means the amount of loot that drops will be fixed, no matter how big your group is. They've also made it a bit easier to solo some of the bosses in Legion, such as Gul'dan on Mythic and some bosses in Antorus the Burning Throne, just to mention a few. You will now be able to solo every single island expedition on any difficulty, which is pretty good considering the number of mounts and cosmetics you can get. They've also changed the number of players you require to queue up for a normal Warfront, so instead of 15 players, you just need 5. Professions are getting some minor changes. The drop rate on mining ores, Callias hide, heavy Callias hide, and lightless silk has been increased by 20%, and the jewel crafting essences have been increased by 10% as well. They made some great improvements to the group finder. You'll now be able to pick a playstyle whenever you look for a Mythic Plus dungeon or a PvP group. You'll be able to pick between Standard, Completion, and Beat Timer for Mythic Plus dungeons, and earn Conquest, Learning, and increased rating for PvP. The group leader will also be able to put a minimum rating for Mythic Plus or PvP activities, so it will be a lot easier to find the players you actually need. They've also made it a bit easier to find Mythic Plus keys by allowing you to search for a numeric range, which honestly is going to be really helpful. They're also trying to eliminate some of the annoying ads we see in the group finder. So if you want to list a group for a dungeon, raid, or raided PvP activities, you now need to have an authenticator attached to battle.net account. Besides that, we have some minor changes that I'm not gonna mention, but you can check out the blue post if you want to. The flawless and family specific battle training stones will now give you a flat 2000 experience instead of a level, and the Fell Torch battle training stones will now give you 10,000 experience instead of 5 levels. They've also reduced the price of the battle training stones from 60 down to 35, so that's a pretty good change. On top of that, they've also reduced the experience penalty when your pet dies by 50% and increased the experience you gain during battles by 50% as well. And yeah, these were some of the changes to the pet battles. They've made a bunch of improvements to the user interface and accessibility. First and foremost, they changed the requirements for the newcomer guide. So now you just need to complete 3000 quests and reach maximum levels to participate, which shouldn't be too hard. They've also improved the item upgrade UI, which looks a lot better now in my opinion, and they've made some smaller changes as well, like different icons and stuff. But the last thing I want to talk about are some of the improvements to the reporting system. A lot of people felt like whenever they reported someone, Blizzard just didn't listen. So in patch 9.15, you will actually get a confirmation whenever you report someone, and you will also get notified when action is taken against that player, which is really good. Another great change is whenever you ignore someone, you will actually block their entire account. So if someone is harassing you from multiple characters, then hopefully this will fix the issue. And yeah guys, these were some of the changes coming to patch 9.15. It's definitely one of the more important patches in Shadowlands, I would say, because it brings so many good changes that the community wanted for so long. I just hope Blizzard actually decides to listen to the feedback during future betas, so we don't have to wait for a year for some of these changes to happen. But anyways, I hope all of you enjoyed the video. I might have missed some of the minor changes, and if I did, I apologize. Now, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video as well. Take care.